The one thing I tell the parents is just tell your kids you enjoy watching them play. Mm-hmm. Tell them you enjoy watching them compete. Praise the effort. Don't critique them. There's a fine line. We want our kids to be amazing at what they do, but not at the expense of stealing who they are from them, so that you feel good about who they are.
Hey guys, welcome to View from the Top podcast. I am so excited you're here today. Wally's out. Wally's sick today. My sidekick is not here, but we have absolutely had a blast interviewing Patrick Lewis. I think you're going to be so taken aback by some of the things that he's accomplished over the course of his life. And he's done it with so many opportunities for failure. And he pushed through relentlessly. I mean, a lot of grit, a lot of determination, a lot of perseverance. And he really takes you on a journey that you are not going to expect. I mean, a guy that had a cocaine addiction, running a multimillion-dollar company, and he still held it together, is to be commended for the way that he was able to deal with that horrible addiction. And the outcome is going to be impressive to you. So I hope you enjoy the show today. I'm going to get Patrick in here now. Hey, Patrick, welcome to Nashville. Man, we're glad you came up, drove up from Atlanta yesterday, and we had a great dinner last night at Jimmy Kelly's, one of my favorite restaurants here in Nashville. But it's pretty cool to meet with you in person. When I started thinking about our relationship and how we met, I think didn't you hear me on a podcast?
Yeah, I did.
About 7 years ago?
Yeah, it's seven. Yeah, probably maybe 8 now.
8, yeah.
It's been a while.
It goes quick. And so you joined Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind, and you called me and you said, hey, I want to get to know you better. And you said some of those things that you're doing, I want a part of. And so that was pretty cool. It turned into a friendship. Over the years, we've gotten to know each other pretty intimately, really gotten involved in each other's lives. And I was given a great honor. Last year, you asked me to be on your board of directors, and so I've enjoyed that process, and that helps me get to know you better. But I can't really say that's necessarily good all the time, though, because it gets pretty heated in some of those meetings. But, hey, before we get started talking about a few things, I want to thank you. I wasn't expecting this. You gave me a hat, fishing hat, because I'm doing a lot of fishing right now, Superior Rigging. And that's really cool. But I wanted to welcome you to Nashville, and I brought a little gift for you as well. And so we're gonna exchange hats, and it's a Tennessee hat, and I thought it was appropriate. So
roll tide.
I just want to tell you,
appreciate that.
Welcome to Nashville. You can wear that with a lot of pride here in Nashville, since we just had a really good weekend. About a weekend ago, so I thought that would really warm your heart. So I was going to get a goo-goo and bring it also because Nashville's known for goo-goos, but I thought since we were exchanging hats, I would bring you a good one. I didn't even know. It was funny when you got out of the truck and you handed me this hat, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be good. So,
well, I appreciate you having me. And you know what? After 16 years of misery, you guys deserve one good weekend.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I'm happy for you. I'll
you.
take this and do something kind with it.
I'm not too worried about the past 16 years, but this year I'm especially fond of. So, hey, man, thank you.
Well, congrats to your Vols.
Hey, let's dive in a little bit to you and your company. And Superior Rigging's been around a long time, and so 75 years. We just had a big party and celebrated that. That was a lot of fun. And tell us kind of how you got started in that, because it's been a journey.
Superior Rigging started in 1952. There was a gentleman by the name of Ed Horn that started Superior Rigging, and it was really the only crane and rigging steel erection company in Atlanta at that time. And my dad followed in his father's footsteps in Huntsville, Alabama, and he became a union millwright, which was a guy that works in the field, puts in equipment, conveyors, alignments, those sort of things, and worked at Redstone Arsenal back then. They built all the rockets there for the space program. And so my dad got his start there, and I think as that rocket program started phasing out, didn't have a lot of work, and decided to move to Atlanta. So my dad and my mom jumped in a 1968 Camaro in 68 and moved to Atlanta, and he went to the Union Hall there, and Superior called the Union Hall needed a guy for a half a day. And my dad took the job and never left.
Isn't that amazing? Look what happened. Like, he took one job for a half a day, and it changed the family tree.
Yeah.
We never know the moments that we're offered each and every day, how that's going to impact our future. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. It's indicative of everything that we do, that we never know the direction that's going to change in generations. But yeah, it definitely changed our family tree, and worked his way up and became a manager of the field operations. And Mr. Horn, I only met him one time, but he would always tell my dad, and I remember that day that I met him, he told my dad that particular day again, he said, "Charlie, I'm remembering you in my will." And so Mr. Horn unfortunately passed away in 1986. And in his will, he left instructions for his widow to sell the company to the top 4 guys in the company. And so my dad was one of those 4 guys that bought it from Mrs. Horn in 1986. And about that time, I guess I was about 13. It may have been actually a little bit before that, before Mr. Horn passed away. I started working there when I believe I was 11 or 12.
Did you want to work there at
No.
11 or 12, or your dad wanted you
Heck
to work
no,
there?
man. I was forced to work there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like every summer from then till I graduated high school, the day we got out of school till the day we went back to school, I was at work. I had a checking account when I was 11 years old. I had to save my money. I had to buy my own school clothes. I had to grow up pretty fast.
How much of that you think played into the level of success that you've been able to experience over the course of your...
It definitely helped. It set the groundwork for discipline and those sort of things, but it also set up a lot of bad decisions later in life when I got some freedom to kind of relive a childhood that maybe was taken away from me. So I think there was pluses and minuses to it. And I paid the price later for the success.
Are you bitter about that? Are you bitter about losing some of that childhood? I lost some of mine as well. So
yeah, I don't think bitter is the right word. I think I was wounded through a lot of stuff over that time with that relationship. But there was definitely a lot of good that came out of it. But I'll tell you a story. So when the first week I worked there, I got my paycheck, and it was like $3.35 an hour, and minimum wage was $3.65 an hour. And back then, you had guys that would just mess with you all the time. So this one guy, Alvin Ashcraft, that ran our crane department, he came to me and says, hey, boy, how much they paying you? So I said, man, I'm making $3.35 an hour. And he goes, what? He said, man, minimum wage is $3.65. So he opened up the white pages at that time. People don't know what it is, a phone book. And it says, you need to call this number. And it was the Department of Labor.
You didn't call them on
I
your
did
dad.
call them, yeah.
You called them on your dad.
I called him on my dad. Yeah, I didn't know any better.
I bet that went over well.
Yeah, not so much. But I did get a raise the next week, and I got back pay.
Okay.
So they made it right. But yeah, he wasn't happy with me.
That is so good. So when did you decide that this is going to be something you're going to pursue, or did your dad decide that as well?
No, he didn't decide that. It was the things Superior did, the problems they solved, the people that were there. I saw the passion early on for the brand and for the company, and it was something I wanted to be a part of. And I told Benny Tumbleston, who was the president at the time, at a really young age. I was probably 14 or 15. And he was one of my dad's partners. I said, I'm gonna have your job one day.
How did you have that insight? I mean, did your dad teach you this? Did you just observe it? Was this something that was just innately in you? Like 14, 15 is pretty young. Like, how did you have that foresight to even think about that?
I think it's just part in my DNA. I always, I think I'm an entrepreneur down deep. I strive for success. I strive to kind of pave my own path and do my own thing, but to watch what was taking place in front of me and to see the opportunities that I knew were going to be there, I wanted to make sure I put myself in a position to expand on that.
You were tenured at that point, right?
Yeah.
You've been there 5 years. So what did the guy say? You're like, hey, I want to be involved, and he said, hey, stick around, kid. We'll see what we can do. Or did y'all start to plan for you?
Yeah, no, there were no plans. I don't really remember his response. It was probably a laugh a little bit at that time at my age. I started out rolling a magnet around the yard, picking up metal. So it didn't
Is he
get the
still
tires of
around?
the crane. He is.
I wonder if he's laughing now.
No, he's not. We're actually really good friends. We probably talk 2 times a month.
Oh, cool.
And he calls and checks in.
Kind of a
He'll
mentor.
Go fishing with me, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, Benny was always good to me.
Yeah. So what happened from there? You get married, have a bunch of kids, you get out of school.
So I graduated high school, and I got into the union apprenticeship program and was working at Superior, working in the field. And at the same time, I was going to college at night, got married when I was 21. And then I think in 1995, so I was about 24 years old, one of my dad's partners was retiring, and he was in sales and estimating there. And I called Benny and said, hey, I want to come talk to you. I was actually working at the Ford Motor Company. We were doing a change out over there. And so he said, yeah, come on in. And so I walked in the door. I said, man, I want to apply for Dick's position. And he goes, what do you mean? Like, you've only been in the field 3 years. I said, yeah, man, I think I'm going to be a really good salesman, and I want to move into the office. He said, well, what'd your dad say about this? I said, I don't know. I hadn't talked to him about it, and prefer to keep it that way, right? So I want you to hire me on the merits of you knowing who I am and not kind of who my father is. And
you were pretty confident from 14 all the way through. You're not void of confidence today.
No.
But, so is that something else that was taught? Did they instill confidence in you, or you were just so stubborn and so...
Yeah, probably a combination of all that. I think playing sports for a number of years.
Because you're competitive.
I'm super competitive.
You want to win.
I want to win. But, as a child, nothing was ever good enough with my dad. So it was always pushed to do more, to be better than what you are, which, has its pluses and minuses, but it definitely created a competitive streak in me for sure.
How did you feel about that as a kid and as a young man when it wasn't good enough, or you could have done a little better?
Well, it was frustrating, right? So I ended up giving up sports later because you get tired of hearing kind of all the negative things.
What would you say to young dads now with their kids coming along? Like, where do you encourage them enough but not build them up to the point when they're really no good? You're like,
praise the effort, not the result.
Okay.
That's kind of what I tell you. I coach girls softball still.
You're heavy in that. You won a World Series.
Yeah, won a national championship. And the one thing I tell the parents is just tell your kids you enjoy watching them play. Mm-hmm. Tell them you enjoy watching them compete. Praise the effort. Don't critique them. There's a fine line. We want our kids to be amazing at what they do, but not at the expense of stealing who they are from them, so that you feel good about who they are.
What would you do with one of your kids if you had it to go over in regards to if you saw that they really weren't really good? Are you going to encourage them to push through that, or find another sport, or quit altogether?
Quitting was never a big thing with me, and I probably made a lot of the same mistakes my dad made with me. I ended up, we'll talk about this I'm sure at some point, was a single father, raised my 3 kids, and really kind of fathered my kids the way I was fathered. So that I'm sure they have a lot of wounds that hopefully I can help them heal at some point and continue to try to help them with that. But
you want to take us there a little bit? Talk as much as you want about that. So you said so you were married at 21.
Yeah.
Now in this conversation that you're single. You want to talk about that time?
Yeah. So married at 21, had 3 kids. I think I had Morgan. Morgan's 23 now, so I was 25 at the time. And then I had another kid, Mallory, 13 months later, and then Bryant 2 years after that. Got divorced when I was 29. And, at that particular time, I had made our relationship, it was my high school sweetheart. Didn't really understand how to be in a relationship, honestly, at the time. And she got on a path of pain pills. I got on a path and made a mistake and had an affair, and so we parted ways, and her pain pill addiction ended up turning into bigger and better things. So I'd file for custody of my kids for a number of years, and then got them.
That's unusual for a dad
to
do that. What was going on in your mind there? It was like, I got to get them away from her, or you just really wanted to have them yourself?
Well, I wanted my kids in a safe place.
Okay.
Yeah, with no thought of how the hell am I going to do this?
And you're going to do whatever you got to do to get these kids.
Yeah, and that's what I did. So got them at a young age, raised them. I was mom and dad.
Was that hard?
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had 2 daughters and a son. I didn't know nothing about even raising kids, much less about women or raising girls.
Still don't.
I still don't. Yeah, none of us do. But yeah. So my daughters start having periods, and they got nobody to talk to, and they,
you're you're looking up.
I'm trying to figure it out.
What do I say here? Right. Yeah. So you get them grown.
Yeah.
And but before that, there were some real trials.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to dive in a little bit, because you kind of went off on the deep end a little bit.
Yeah.
And what did that look like?
Yeah. So when I got divorced at 29, it was a shock. It was a shock to the system. I thought I had life kind of figured out, and I'd owned Superior at this time, and I had a wife and 3 kids and the
partners.
Big house.
You had partners at this time?
I did. I had 3 partners at that time. So there was 4 of us originally. In 2001, bought Superior from the 2 guys that owned at the time, my dad and Benny.
Okay. So you got 3 partners. Your partner just got a divorce, and whole world comes crumbling down.
Yeah, with a lot of decisions that I made. I moved into an apartment in Atlanta. I'm by myself. I'm not with my family, and made a lot of bad choices. And ended up using cocaine, and started out just as a little going out, a little pick me up, and the next thing you know, it turned into a full blown habit and an addiction. Where my typical day was this, Big A. I would get up in the morning, or I'd go to work. And about 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'd leave the office, sign out to go to a job, and I'd go home and I'd sleep for about 3 hours because I had slept all night. And so I'd sleep about my 3 or 4 hours. I'd go back to the office. I'd get my work done. I'd leave there. I'd go to the gym for some reason, work out about an hour, and then I'd go to my drug dealer's house. And I'd buy another 8 ball of cocaine, and I'd go home, and I would use cocaine all night long by myself. And I'd stay up all night, and that pattern repeated itself.
Patrick, let's go back to that apartment. You're sitting there with this 8 ball of cocaine.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking about? Like, is this just numbing yourself?
It's numbing. Processes.
You knew this was wrong.
For sure.
Like, hey, like, I know better than this, but you continue to do it.
Well, you had no comfort in your life, right? Like I told you I had an affair, so every friend I had left me because they were all married, right? And their wives didn't want them to have anything to do with me. I mean, I was ostracized. And so you had nothing but work.
So you're in isolation.
Yeah, you're in isolation. I had, before that I was big into the church. I had a men's group that I was involved in, and there was a guy in that group named Larry Nails that I looked up to immensely. He's a deacon in the church, and man, I sought advice from him consistently. And so when I got divorced, I called Larry, trying to talk to him, trying to get some godly advice from him, and he didn't take my call, and he never called me back. So that hurt.
A lot of pain. Man.
Yeah, a lot of pain. So there was a lot of times,
Did that
suicidal
make you bitter?
thoughts.
Did that make you bitter at the church?
I wouldn't say at the church. Made me question, whether that was the right path. Whether people that claim to be men of God were really men of God.
Did you call him out on it or not?
No, I never got the chance to speak back with Larry. He ended up passing away a number of years later, but. I was never really in a position till probably the last 5 years where I felt like my life was in a situation where I was in any position to call anybody out for anything with the decisions that I'd made.
Sure. So you're sitting there every night doing this 8 ball of cocaine. For what period of time?
Probably went on for about 3 months.
And who's got your kids?
Well, so the weekends that I would have my kids, I would not use them. So at this point in time, I was only getting my kids every other weekend.
I got you.
So when they would come, I was dad, and there was none of that went on. But as soon as they left, right, it was back to despair. It was back to doing the habits that I do. And one particular Friday night, a buddy of mine went out and used cocaine all night. We came back in, and my son's birthday was that Saturday. It was his second birthday, and he had a big birthday party planned at his mom's house. And I think we rolled in 4 o'clock in the morning or something, and I looked at Sean. I said, "Hey, when you leave in the morning, make sure I'm up, because I can't miss my son's birthday party." And I think I woke up that Saturday night about 11 p.m. Dozens of missed calls on my phone. I was lowest of low that I've probably ever been knowing I missed my son's birthday party. Got up, went to a little diner there off Ponce Avenue, and got a little something to eat, and I came back and crashed again because I hadn't slept in 3 months. I'd sleep 2 or 3 hours a day. And I woke up Sunday night about 6 o'clock to just beating on my door, and it was my sister and my mom, and they were expecting to find me dead in there. So finally got up, opened the door, and they said, grab your stuff, we're taking you somewhere. So they took me to a rehab facility, and that was humbling. We walk in there, and they take your shoelaces, they take your belts, take everything. Because I had some suicidal tendencies with this, this low part of my life.
Those thoughts are going through your head. Like, hey, let's just end it. Let's be done with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm probably rehab's largest success story. I think I spent 3 days in there.
Yeah. Aren't you supposed to stay several months or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And you were there stubborn again, right? You're like, no, I got this.
It's determination. This is going to sound terrible. My thought at the time when I saw, and I hate to use this word, but this was my thought at the time, when I saw those people in there, I said, that's not who I am. And it's not who I'm going to be. And
it was a real stark realization that you were going down a bad path.
Yeah. And I knew I had to get out of there, and my decision was made. Like I didn't need any more therapy coaching in regards to drugs. I was done. I was finished. Yeah, get me out of there. So
man, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank God that doctor. Like I took a little selling. I had to sell him over the course of about 2 days to let me out of there. So
yeah. So what happened then? So you go back, and do your partners know what's going on at this point?
Yeah, one of them did.
He did.
Yeah, my mom and dad had to call him because when they took me to rehab, you know, they there was no way to call anybody. I couldn't make phone calls out, so they had to go meet with him and give him a little advice. And you know, they were supportive.
Right.
That, you know, thankful for that.
So were you successful with this? You were good, and so you go back, and what transpired then?
Well, I just didn't go back to using, right? I still had the depression. I still had, you know, suicidal thoughts. And I had those thoughts for, God, probably up until about 3 years ago, where I'd wake up every single morning, and the first thought that would go through my mind every day is, today the day that I pull the trigger. Like that was the first thought every single day.
Well, that like gives me chills when you say that. You've told me that in private before, but so how did you deal with that then? So now it's not a thought. Now you don't deal with it. And so...
Yeah, what changed for me was practicing gratitude. Is just as simple as it sounds. I'd spent the bulk of my life, I had all this success, and the business was doing great, and we were growing into areas and new markets we'd never been into, but I was miserable, right? I had no peace in my life. I had no happiness in my life.
So people out there think money makes you happy.
No, money doesn't make you happy at all. You know, that's a choice you have to make, and the work you have to do internally.
But just a little bit more, like if you're making X dollars, and people out there listening to this right now are thinking, yeah, but if I get to this, then I'm going to be happy. What do you say to those people?
That was my thoughts all along, right? If I make this, then I'm gonna be able to get this thing, and this thing's gonna make me happy, or these clothes are gonna make me happy, or this house is gonna make me happy, or this car is gonna make me happy. And at the end of the day, all you're doing is filling a hole in your stomach and in your gut. And you put that in there, and within days, you're right back to feeling what you felt, and then you're trying to chase the next thing. And it's just a miserable rinse and repeat cycle.
Nothing ever gave you the gratification, satisfaction, filled you up, right? And we're talking to a guy that's had multiple houses, yachts, you name it, places all over the world, right? And still, you still were depressed. You were still down because you were chasing the wrong thing.
Yeah, dealing with a lot of past wounds in my life, and where you never felt secure, soothed, and safe, and so you're constantly striving, trying to find those things that you're not giving yourself.
So let's talk about those wounds. What wounds are we talking about?
Oh, I think as most men, or a lot of men, hopefully not all of them, you know, we all have daddy wounds. We all have. You know, depending on how we were raised. Like I said, I was raised to nothing was ever good enough. You know, it was constantly berated, constantly talked down to. I thought about this last night, and I don't know if it's even appropriate to say, but it stings because it still carries over with me. I've forgiven him, but I used to hear this comment a lot, and he would tell me, the best part of you ran down my leg.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you know, when you hear that sort of stuff, you have no self-confidence, you have no self-belief in yourself. So there was a constant strive, and I think kind of propelled some of my success, right? I'm going to show him. At some point, he's going to have to tell me he's proud of me.
Yeah.
At some
point. So you're
point.
working all your life to get your dad to go, hey, I'm proud of you, Patrick.
Yeah.
He didn't say that.
No, I still hadn't. Yeah.
How do you deal with that today? These people that are listening to this interview today, and they're out there doing the same thing. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, I did a lot of therapy that helped me understand that he just didn't know any better. It was his experience and his childhood.
You gave him a pass, but that still doesn't give you.
Well, I'm not giving him a pass. I had to forgive him, which then would allow me to go work and create the things that I needed to create in my life, to give myself the things that I needed to give. You know, when I first started going to therapy, my therapist would go, well, you need to learn to love yourself. And I go, well, tell me how to do that. So I can't tell you how to do that. Well, if you'll just give me the steps, I'll go make that happen, right? And so it took a long process of letting go of the things that had been done to me, forgiving him for what had been done to me.
Did he ask for forgiveness?
No.
So you just chose to forgive him? He didn't even deserve forgiveness.
Well, but forgiveness is for yourself.
Okay.
Right. I don't think we forgive to give that to other people.
Right.
That's
right.
a gift we give ourselves to free ourselves of the pain we're dealing with.
Because bitterness is its own prison.
Yeah.
And you're the one suffering.
Yeah.
Right. He's probably not even thought about it. You think about it every day.
Yeah, he probably hasn't thought about it, but at the same time, he's living in his own prison.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he won't say it.
Yeah, he won't say it, but he's also miserable because he hasn't done the work to love himself or to forgive himself or to even forgive his father. I don't know what that history is there. Obviously, he died when I was a little young man. But
do you know the place that you were at when you forgave him? Was there, was it over time? Was it immediate? Was it just a choice? What does that look like?
Yeah,
people listening right now want to know, like, I don't even know how to forgive somebody.
It was over time. It came through a lot of writing, journaling, writing down things that had happened, things that I'd remembered, and just kind of
walking through. So you wrote these things down, these
Yeah.
bad things in your life. You think it's important to write those down?
I do, yes. So for me, it was the only way I could get it out because stuff would just kept popping up, right? So I would write it down, then I would forgive him for that, and then maybe a couple weeks later, your memory would jar something else, and then you'd kind of recreate that same anger or bitterness towards it. So for me, that was the way I got it out, was to write it down and forgive it.
Yeah. And so it's just a process.
Yeah.
And today, you feel pretty good today about it. You're like, hey, it's not ideal, but I can move on. That's not the filter I run everything through any longer. Yeah,
for sure. No, I'm extremely happy with my life. Do I wish things had been, I don't want to give a bad picture, right? My childhood, and I'll just say this in therapy, it wasn't terrible, but, then my therapist would go, well, yeah, it is, but because this is how it turned out for you. But, so do I wish there had been some things that were different? Yeah, but I'm appreciative of it now. It's helped mold who I am today, and it's got me through to a place where I have peace and happiness and direction in my life and what I'm trying to do.
Do you regret some things the way you did with your children? You had your children, you were a young dad, you were by yourself, you were trying to do the best that you could do. Like, there's a lot of people out there today, 55% of all marriages end in divorce.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people so that they don't have a sense of regret? Because I know personally you and I have talked about that.
Yeah, I don't know that I have any magic words to say so I don't have a sense of regret. I definitely regret a ton of stuff with my kids, a ton of things that I did or said. I mean, crap, I'm still not perfect. I blew up at my son this past weekend and said something I shouldn't have said to him. And the part of the growth happens, and the wound's still there when I said what I said to him. But I was able to pick the phone up the next day and say, "Hey, I need to apologize to you."
So you did. You went back to him and apologized.
Yeah.
How did he receive that?
He received it well. He actually, it was cool. It was a good moment. He apologized back to me for what he said that kind of triggered me to go. But it's not for his place. He shouldn't even have to apologize to me because I shouldn't have never took it there. But.
Certain amount of that's normal, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say some parenting things you're getting on your kids, maybe not in the manner you did it, because I know you got a little bit of a temper and it can get riled up sometimes. Yeah. So not necessarily what you said, it's how you said it.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. I mean, we want the best for our kids, and when we see them maybe heading down a path that we know isn't going to serve their life, I think looking at it through a different lens and looking at it through love and trying to guide them through love versus guiding them through anger sometimes because they're not doing what you want them to do, which is what I experienced the whole time growing up, which is part of, why my journey was the way it was, because I was spent my whole life, because I got set up to do what somebody else wanted me to do. And so the whole life you never figure out who you are, because I didn't understand that I could do and make decisions for myself and what I wanted. So I think leading with love with our kids, allow them to be who they are, but try to put guardrails in place through love will help them understand that it's okay to be who they are. And so I strive to do that. I'm not perfect with it.
How do you
all.
support them with that? Your kids are in their 20s, and so 1 or 2's in college?
So 2 are out of college now, so I got 1 left in college.
1 left in college, okay. Is he transferring to Tennessee? No, anyway. So how do you support them, like pragmatically? What do you do? What are the steps that you do? What do you say to support maybe some of their dreams?
Yeah, I just try to talk to them about what it is they want to do and not tell them, oh, well, that's a dumb idea or you shouldn't do that.
Well, what if it's a dumb idea? What if you think it's a dumb idea? What do you do?
Well, but, so Morgan, my oldest, went to LSU. said, hey, Dad, school's not for me. She dropped out of school. Do I think that's a dumb idea? I think that's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
Right? But I can't put what I want on her to try to stop her from doing that. Then
I can't say anything.
bitterness.
I didn't even go to college.
Yeah, I didn't finish either. I'm still a senior.
So Morgan's not right. You and I didn't go and finish.
Yeah.
And so we did okay, and you've done exceptionally well. So Morgan's probably going to do fine.
Yeah, I think Morgan's going to do great. So Morgan's an artist, and that's what she wants to do. And I got a couple of choices. I can say, hey, don't pursue your passion. Like, go do something else and do that on the side. Like, really, what I'm telling her is, who you are is not good enough. And so it's taken a lot for me to get to that point to be able to say those things to my kids, because I used to tell them, I wanted them to do this or be successful at this, and it's not my choice in who they want to be in life. All I'm trying to do is love who they are.
Yeah, that's really good. So bring us up to speed on what Superior Rig looks like now. What does the future look like? What is your vision? What are your hopes and desires? What does your life look like today? What are some of the things you're doing that's exciting today?
Yeah, so Superior's grown immensely since 2001 when we took it over. We now have 2 locations. We got an office in Atlanta and an office in Orlando, where we serve our markets, and really been focusing lately on trying to grow our crane and our rigging side, and really just trying to kick ass in the 2 markets that we're at. And hopefully in the next 5 years we'll stretch that out to a couple more locations. Maybe
we need you here in Nashville.
Well, I've been, maybe if we can get you to go back to work and get off the lake a little bit, we'll make that happen.
I don't know if you're going to succeed if you're looking at me to do that. I enjoy fishing, but what about for you personally? What are some of the things you do that you enjoy? I know you and I get to fish together some, and that's a lot of fun. So
I was fortunate through my success to create an opportunity of things that I want to do and the times that I can do them in. And I have a place now in Islamorada, Florida, that I get to spend a lot of time in, and get to do a lot of fishing and a lot of boating, and really just get to spend time with my friends.
You're supposed to be fishing today, but you came here, and I'm so honored and grateful that you came here instead of out on. They're probably killing them today too.
So we got some clients out fishing today, and I got an early report. It's a good day so far. So hopefully they continue to crush it.
I was hoping it would be bad so that you wouldn't feel so bad about missing.
No, man, I'm excited to be here. I get to fish enough, but being able to sit down with you and get to tell my journey and my story, and hopefully it some resonates with somebody that can help them and bring them out of a place.
I want to focus a little bit on the business side of your success, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that follow us. And so what is some advice that you would give to some of the entrepreneurs today? What are some of the things that, if you could wave a magic wand, you could go back and change fundamentally how you did some things, or even emotionally how you process some things? Is it all about the growth? Like, give some advice to these guys.
It's all about the people, and it's all about setting your expectations. So some things I wish I'd have done a lot earlier were set systems and processes in place, and so everybody knew the guidelines to operate in. And one of my biggest mistakes as a businessman and an entrepreneur was not setting firm expectations of this is how I want something done, or having a system and process in place to do it. So when people would then go do whatever it is that they were doing, and it wasn't what I thought I wanted it to be in my mind, then I would get, upset, and maybe sometimes they might get a little wrath, as I've learned.
But they can't see your mind.
They can't see my mind.
They
That's
don't know what the
biggest
expectations
lesson
are.
I've taken away and tried to learn over the last little bit, is really trying to communicate more about what I want and how I want, and what's, and not that I don't want to make it sound arrogant, right? It's not just about what I want, but as the leader of the company and the vision and how we want to operate, kind of setting that standard.
Okay, so systems and processes are mandatory. What about like core values and understanding your mission or purpose in what you're doing? How important is that to you and for Superior?
Well, I was fortunate when I took over Superior. We had a group of people there that had been there a really long time, and we never had core values written on a wall. We never had it written on a piece of paper. It was never talked about. There wasn't a mission. This was families that had been there forever. So I was fortunate to have those type people there to help us get to that success. But as people start retiring that have been there a long time, now all of a sudden you start losing your culture. Because it's different people coming in that don't have 20, 30 years there, that don't bleed the brand like you guys bleed the brand, or those that retired from there. So putting core values in place and a mission and preaching the vision and continuing to communicate that is super important. And I, quite frankly, I haven't done a phenomenal job of that up until maybe just recently, of trying to get those things into place and getting the right team, because any business is just the people. You got to have the right team, the right people on the bus, and they got to know where you're going.
The relationships matter most.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, in everything that you do. So what else would you do? So how would you approach the business? Would it be to establish a benchmark? Would you have goals? Would it be just to make all you can make? How would you look at it differently from a growth standpoint?
Yeah, I don't think, my goal was never to make all we can make. I want to make sure our clients have a kick-ass experience, dealing with us, and we want to be the best that we can be in what we do. And a lot of our job is solving problems, is putting puzzles together, and how are you going to move X from Z, or how are you going to build this? And that's where we came up with the slogan, making the tough look easy, because that's what we do. But one thing is I would have done a lot different is continuing to have a pipeline of people out there, continuing to interview. One of the things I didn't do a good job was having applicants lined up, right? It was only when, Jimmy walked out the door or retired that, I got to find somebody now, right? So I think the one thing is continually hiring, and don't just say, hey, we don't have a job for you. If you find good talent, bring those people in, find a spot for them, and let them be the kind of fuel to the rocket ship and what you're trying to do from a growth standpoint.
So make the investment before you need it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like prepare them, get them ready. I like that. Raising people up, getting prepared, right, and then go out.
Yeah. And Superior hasn't done a good job. We're just in the kind of the stages of really.
I know you. I'm on the board, Patrick.
Yeah, I know you are.
I'm on the board, so I know that. So but getting a lot better.
Yeah.
Way better, right? And fundamentally, you've got this process. It's the systems, the mission, the values. You've got everything lined out, right? Now you're ready to push the gas again.
Yeah, but the key to that, right, was bringing in some people that are really good people that could help me, that would challenge me,
right? And
had people that willing to go, hey, Patrick, I know what you've done here has been really good.
Let's talk about that. You're not the easiest person to challenge. So how do you subject yourself to those people? Because you like people with courage that'll stand up and tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm actually more easy to challenge than most people think. I want to be challenged. Mm-hmm. It's the people that don't challenge me that probably don't turn out well.
You lose respect for them.
Sure. Yeah, I want candor. I want people to tell me what they think.
Yeah. People do it in different ways. You and I are very similar. We like for people to just tell us straight up. This is the way to. Everybody's not like that. So how do you adapt the way you receive things from people that don't have the same personality?
I've had to grow through some of that, but I try to be open with my communication of what I want, and really kind of say, I want candor from you. Mm-hmm. I had a guy, one of our employees, I was at a meeting the other week in Austin, and he sent me a text, and this guy that doesn't report to me, but he just says, hey, Patrick, I got a question. I was wondering if you would entertain it. And I thought, oh boy, where's this headed? Right, it was on text, and I said, hey, I'm in this meeting. As soon as I get out in about 45 minutes, I'll call you. He goes, man, I wasn't expecting a call, but that'd be great. So I call him up, and he says, I said, hey, so what's the question? He goes, I just want to know, what do you value most in an employee? I thought, wow, this is a big question, right? Candor. He was like, candor. I said, yeah, it's simple. Candor. I want the truth. I want the truth all the time. And he said, well, wow, that's interesting. So we talked about it a little bit. And I said, let me give you a couple examples. And Mallory went to work there with my middle child for a little bit. And one of her tasks that her boss had her doing initially out of the gate was interviewing people at Superior and interviewing them to understand what they do, how they go about it, so she could really kind of learn the business. And there was a handful of people through that process that halfway through the conversation, when they found out she was my daughter, completely changed the interaction, or said afterwards, well, I wish I would have known you were Patrick's daughter, because I would have answered those questions differently.
Yeah, but you didn't want them to know.
We don't want that.
No.
Right? So what I want is people that, it doesn't matter who it is or who's in the room, be willing to say what you feel. Right. Be willing to give your opinion, because it is valued.
Right.
It's when you don't give it that I kind of lose respect for that.
Yeah. We got to be careful with our personalities. I know I'm a little bit older. I'm a lot older now, but used to, people would be very candid with me. And my reply sometimes was pretty vicious.
Yep.
And we build reputations of not presenting a conducive environment that will allow feedback. And we got to be careful with our personalities to allow them to say it, bite our tongue. I know I've seen your face so red, that vein pop out on your forehead. It's like, uh-oh, I hope he doesn't pop.
Yeah.
Like, give him some space, right? But I think it's valuable what you're saying to everyone listening out there right now is you can approach it differently. We all have different styles and methodologies by which we deliver the truth. That's really what you're looking for, right?
Yeah,
It's
but you just said
say it.
something key that people need to pay attention to. You got to make it safe for them to do it, and you know, I struggle with that at times, right? It's you got to bite your tongue because they may give you some advice or opinion that you just think isn't. Years
ago, I remember calling you on the phone because I got the other side of the conversation. I called you and I said, you cannot rip their heads off. You cannot do that. You got to bite your tongue for a minute. And I'll have to say you've really, really grown through that. So you're doing a really good job.
Well, you've been instrumental in that, and I just want to thank you for being a mentor to me and pouring into me for the last 5 or 6 years like you have, and challenging me to be a better boss, a better father, and a better man. So, you know, who I am today has been a lot of what you've poured into me.
I appreciate
so thank you
saying that. Patrick, if people want to reach out and they want to learn more about you, Superior Rigging, I know you got some really exciting things on the horizon. Is there a website that would be easy for them to go to? How can they contact you?
SuperiorRigging.com is our website. We're on all the social media pages. We put out some really good content on Instagram. I think we even have a TikTok, which I don't understand a lot of TikTok. We have a TikTok
even been
now,
on TikTok.
So I think we do Twitter, so you can reach out to us on any there. And then I also have some personal pages if people want to reach out to me personally and talk. Would love to do that.
Cool. Patrick, you're a great friend. You're a good man. You're running a very successful business, and I'm very humbled that you came to Nashville today to do this interview, and thank you for sharing this time with us.
Yeah, thank you for the invite.
All right,
thank
buddy.
you.
We'll see you.
See you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Patrick is an incredible guy. As you can see, he's been an outstanding father, living a life as a single father, raising these 3 kids and growing such a successful business was hugely inspiring to me. So whatever obstacles that you're confronted with today, just remember this interview. If Patrick can do it, you can do it as well. Hey, I want to thank you for being with us today at View from the Top. If you'd like to get a hold of us, feel free to go to viewfromthetop.com. And if you'd like to email us, feel free to go to pod@viewfromthetop.com. We'll see you next week.